The Devil in the Dark is basically a monster story, like horror movies are. But in reality, it's a morality tale of failing to understand the unknown, who may just be as scared of you as you are of it. And that's a very simple premise, but it plays out and it works well for it. Basically, you've got this mining colony on the planet Janus 2 or something like that. And the crew or staff or what have you are just being murdered. And they're being burned alive. And they're like, what the hell is going on? And they've made a call out for the Enterprise to come investigate. And you've got a few scenes here where they're putting guards out, but the guard is by himself. And stay in touch, you'll be all right. And they leave, and immediately the monster shows up and kills him. And they come running back, and they're like, oh, he's dead, like all the others. Well, I guess he didn't do all right like he said he would. So, of course, the Enterprise shows up, and right off the bat, Spock begins to notice this silicone nodule sitting on the desk of the director of the mine and what have you. And he says, yeah, we've been finding thousands of those. We don't know. It's just one of the weird artifacts of this planet. And Spock's already cluing out on it. It was to make a long story short, it's an egg. The creature is a mother protecting her eggs, and they've been drilling into this level they'd never gotten to before. They've been there for years, but they've managed to get to a much deeper level. And when they did, they discovered all these nodules, and they don't really understand what they are or anything. It doesn't really have much value for them. They're going after the minerals they're there for, and they've been destroying these nodules. Well, they've been killing the young of this creature known as a horta, which actually just looks like a really bad piece of pizza. In fact, when I was a kid in school, they used to have this thing. They would call them pizza for the school lunches, but it was basically just like a hamburger bun with hamburger meat and cheese on it. That's kind of like what this thing looks like. But, it works. And it's this creature that can burn its way through rock very easily. And, of course, that's the means by which it's killing the crew, because it's fighting back. It didn't really mind them when they were there originally, but when they started killing the young, well, the creature is going to fight back. And it's very simple like that. And it's all a misunderstanding. They don't understand each other. They didn't know that these things were actual living things. And this is the suggestion that things get really weird in space to where you don't have a carbon-based life form, but rather a silicon-based life form. And is that really possible? Well, I don't know, but for the purposes of the show, yes, it is. And so, of course, this is all discovered, and through the use of Spock's ability to mind meld, they're able to communicate with the creature, and that's how they're able to understand it. And in a lot of ways, it explains. At first, when I was rewatching it, I'm thinking, yeah, do they really explain this or that? And they do. Through Spock's mind meld, the creature has some ability to understand English. It actually writes a message. It burns a message, no kill I. That's a bit broken, and they're kind of, what do you mean? Does it mean don't kill me, or I won't kill you? Or maybe both, they're not certain. But it stands to reason that the creature got some understanding of this because it was able to make a connection with Spock's mind as well. That's how that works. And so that's explained. The reason it doesn't outright kill Kirk when Kirk encounters it is it's already wounded, and the suggestion being that Kirk and Spock's phasers, which they managed to get a shot on it, are far more powerful than the smaller phasers that the miners had, which are, they got two different kind of phasers. You got the pistol, which seems to be more powerful, and then you got the smaller phaser, which basically looks like an electric razor. and that one didn't seem to be doing much, or they just didn't. In a lot of cases, the guys were too scared and panicky, and they got killed before they fired off a shot. But one guy did mention he was able to shoot it, but apparently didn't do as much damage as Kirk and Spock's phasers did. And it was pretty badly wounded, and it was pretty much at the point of giving up. Now, one of the plot things that I think is a bit of a hole here, considering the technology that's prevalent throughout Star Trek, was there was this pumping device that was acting, I guess, like a coolant for their reactor, and also it managed to maintain their air and whatnot. and the creature stole it. And this was the means by which, to, in the hopes that the creature's intelligent, and in hopes that they could drive them out. Then they would have to evacuate because you can't live down there without it. So he calls up Scotty to, can you, manufacture a substitute until we can find the pump, And so Scotty says, well, I'll try, and he does, but it's not as good, and all this sort of stuff. Well, that's all fine and good, except for one problem. They have replicators, and so as you have the plans of that pump, all you got to do is feed it into the computer, and it will make you a new pump. Yeah, that's a problem. Replicators and the transporter itself is virtually the power of God, and yet it's never utilized in that way. But in this actual plot, they needed some kind of means. I don't know how. the Enterprise was damaged and its replicator didn't work. I don't know. But something needed to be there to where you couldn't do that. So they had this. They were running against time. They had to find the thing and all that, and they do. You probably could have done the story without it. It just means that the creature keeps killing people, and they were hunting it down. Maybe you didn't really need to have the idea of the pump and all that. But eventually, the overall point of it is that it was a misunderstanding. They didn't understand, and there's like, we want to kill the creature. Of course, Kirk's first move is to send a bunch of red shirts after it. Well, a couple of those get killed. And then they get brutalized by the miners who are ready to kill the creature. And they're beating them over the head with a pipe. And it's like, hey, they're not going to come back from that, But then Kirk explains to him, yeah, the creature has killed your men, but you've been killing thousands of her children. And they're like, well, what do you mean? And he explains it, and well, no, I didn't know. And still, I think there would be some pretty hard feelings going on here, even though, okay, it was a misunderstanding, but still, that was my best friend you burned alive, And, but they come to an understanding, and actually the creatures are very beneficial to them because they can go and drill tunnels more efficiently and faster than their equipment can, and they're getting more access to it. Or so, oh man, if only they could have communicated, it would have worked so much better, and that's of course the ultimate lesson of the show. So it's a good episode. It's a good spooky, atmospheric. So of course the monster template of story is there, and they make good use of their set and whatnot, and all that's good. But again, you come to things like this that just some sort of, I don't know what you could do other than, like I said, some kind of damage. The replicator would knock it out so they couldn't do that, or just eliminate that element of the plot altogether, because really they could have instantly replaced that pump and it wouldn't have been that much of a problem. But they would still have the problem of there's this creature on here that's killing everybody, so they probably should have just stayed with that. But I guess they just wanted the development. Meanwhile, there's another interesting thing about Dr. McCoy is sent to treat the creature because of its wounds, and it's like, McCoy, I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer. Well, a bricklayer is what they needed. And so he had actually stumbled into the solution. He basically treated the creature with concrete. Yes, that patched up the wound, and the creature recovers and is able to take care of her kids. Because the idea of, and this was the interesting thing, Spock discovered that their race, they produce so much, and then suddenly all of them die except one, and that one is left to take care of the eggs. And when the eggs hatch, it mothers them, and they grow into adulthood, and then the mother dies off, and they continue on the race of the Horta, and that's how they exist. So that was one of the elements there revealed. As I understand it, part of the pitch that Brian Fuller did for what was supposed to be the Star Trek Discovery until he got the boot was that a Horta would have been one of the crew members of the ship. Now, I don't think that would have been a problem in continuity, because they're just now being introduced to them here. If that had been in some future version of the show, then yes, I suppose you could have a Horta be a member of the ship, and that sort of thing. But anyway, it's just a little side note really shouldn't even acknowledge that anymore. It's just so sad. But anyway, an all-around good episode. There was some elements about in the stories of the set. I believe at this time William Shatner's father had passed away, and he was in a bad way. And Leonard Nimoy offered him some comfort and whatnot as a friend. And then he was a bit taken aback when, during the taping of the scene in which Spock is mind melding with the creature, and he's having all these emotions because he's lashing out in the creature's voice about pain and the suffering and all that. And he kept going on about pain, pain. And then at one point, apparently Shatner said, "Somebody give this man an aspirin." They all started laughing. And it broke his moment of trying to be in character, and he was pissed off about it. He's like, "Hey, man, I was..." But you gotta, if Shatner was in a moment of grief and he wanted some levity to distract him from it, then you can give some understanding to that. But that's one of the stories about on the set that I don't know if I got it exactly right, but something to that about. And that's Shatner for you, you know? I mean... but anyway, Devil in the Dark, a monster story with a moral. Yes, that's what it is. Thank you for watching and listening. Say, why not like and subscribe and check out that link description below. That'll take you to my many stores that have plenty of goodies for you. Yes, most notably a link to IndiePlanet.com where you can get a copy of my comic book, Night Night. And, of course, you can catch my show, the Mr. Nailsin Show podcast on RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos over on BitChute.